All right, good morning. I'm just checking my screen to make sure I'm seeing folks. Let's see. All right. Okay, I'm going to ask a question. Good morning, everyone. I'm just asking a quick technical question to someone on my staff. Kyle, for some reason, and I have you pinned and I can't figure out how to unpin you, or maybe Nicole Mullen can help me just so I can see everybody. I'm having trouble seeing everyone's. Oh, hold on. View gallery. Sorry, figured it out. Thanks, everyone. All right, good morning. I'm Megan Nyes. I'm a hearing officer for the Administrative Hearings Office for the State Water Resources Control Board. This is a pre-hearing conference for the public hearing on the temporary suspension of Environmental Laboratory Accreditation Program Certificate 3092 of the laboratory currently located at 3340 El Cajon Boulevard in San Diego of the Environmental Laboratory Network. During this proceeding, I and all of you, if you feel so comfortable, I will be using the acronym ELN to refer to Environmental Laboratory Network, Inc., and I will use the acronym ELAP to refer to the Environmental Laboratory Accreditation Program. This pre-hearing conference is being held in accordance with the notice of hearing dated March 8th, 2024, and the notice of pre-hearing conference that was dated March 13th, 2024. This pre-hearing conference is being conducted by Zoom web conference, and as you hopefully all saw, it's being recorded. And it's being broadcast on our AHO YouTube channel. Both the audio and video are being recorded, and we will post files of this recording along with the Zoom-generated transcript to the AHO FTP site. The YouTube recording will also be available on the AHO webpage. If at any time you are experiencing technical difficulties trying to communicate with us, please send an email to the AHO inbox at admin.hrgoffice@waterboards.ca.gov. AHO staff will be monitoring that inbox. Assisting me today are several staff with the Administrative Hearings Office: Nicole Mullen, Kyle Woldridge, and Skylar Anderson, as well as Emily Roberts and Kim Niemeyer, who's not on the call today, I don't believe. They're assisting from the board's Office of Chief Counsel, as well as Chris Hand from ELAP. I don't see him on the call either. These individuals are identified on page 5 of the March 8th, 2024 hearing notice in the section labeled Hearing Officer and Hearing Team. So we're going to move on to appearances, and to do that, I will identify the parties to the proceeding, and please identify yourself and any other participants who will be participating this morning. If you're not speaking, please remain on mute. It looks like most of you are on mute, which is perfect. All right, so Ms. Mooney, I'll go ahead and start with you. Prosecution team, please identify yourself and anyone else who is on the call from the prosecution team today.
Good morning, Ms. Nice. I'm Laura Mooney. I'm with the prosecution team. I work at the Office of Enforcement. And here today for the prosecution team as well is Naeem Ahmed and Jennifer McLaren from the ELAP program.
Okay, great. Okay, and then Ms. Douglas, are you on the call, possibly identified by a different name?
This is Scott Shepard. Good morning, Ms. Nice. I am an attorney. Lisa Bjorkman works with me, and she's on this call as well. We have just been engaged on behalf of ELN, as you referred to them. And I've told Ms. Douglas that I would appear for her, and she didn't need to be on, but I can get her on if you think she needs to be on personally.
Nope, that's fine. As long as you are updated with her kind of scheduling concerns and constraints, or if you're able to message her if we have any questions about calendars this morning. Are you able to text? Okay, perfect. Text. And this Berkman, and then, okay, that looks like everyone who's on the call this morning. Great. Okay, so since we're dealing with counsel, I had prepared a little spiel to sort of talk about what our office does and what an administrative proceeding is like. But since most of us here are attorneys, I will dispense with that background, and we can just move to the one issue that I noticed in our the pre-hearing conference notice that we sent out yesterday, as well as any other issues that any of you wish to raise this morning. So Ms. Mooney, I'm going to turn to you in a moment. our question, your question to our office is, you had noticed that the notice of hearing is set for next Wednesday, March 20th at 9 a.m. You sent an email to our office, you copied the service list, and you said that some of the key witnesses for the prosecution team are unavailable. So I'll turn the floor over to you if you can speak a little bit more about this conflict. Then we'll talk with Ms. Douglas's counsel and just get a little more of a sense of what we can do to try to find a time that works for everyone. And I guess one question I did have for Ms. Douglas's counsel is, I guess I'll start with them. The statute seems to indicate that the laboratory owner can request a different date for the hearing. And so before we talk actual times of the hearing on March 20th, I wanted to see, are you aware of Ms. Douglas requesting a different date altogether for the hearing? Because if she does, then we don't need to talk about times and we can just make sure that everyone's available on this particular hearing date. So wanted to start with you, Mr. Shepherd.
Thank you for that. So I'm going to be a little bit more long-winded than I should. Apologize. But one of the things that your notice identify was an ability for the parties to talk settlement, which is always something good. And I've had communications with Ms. Mooney, and we've been having some discussions.
Okay.
Generally speaking, Ms. Douglas for ELN does not want to continue the hearing. She wants to have it heard as soon as possible. But Ms. Mooney and I have been talking about some other possible paths forward and timing of that, where it might be agreeable to move the hearing, a short period of time. But we're both gathering, and Ms. Mooney will correct me if I've misstated anything. I'm really trying to be accurate. That a short rescheduling may make sense for us, but we won't have that information today. We're going to work collaboratively to see whether or not that can do. So one of the things I would ask is, if it was to move, whether for the convenience of the witnesses, for other people that are part of the hearing or other reasons, what would be the likely time frame in which it would be rescheduled? What availability is there?
For the AHO, because I think that also, I guess I'd like to maybe hear from Ms. Mooney. I'll just say generally the AHO is pretty available. So, we could try something as early as Monday, March 25th. We could try the first week of April. The statutes that govern these types of proceedings indicate that we should proceed quickly. And so our goal is to try to move as quickly as possible, but also we need to accommodate scheduling concerns. And then of course, settlement, we always encourage settlement. And if, it sounds like the attorneys are talking productively, so that's a great sign. So we need to kind of balance all of those things. So AHO is available and we can accommodate the parties. So Ms. Mooney, what's your position? I'm glad you guys are talking. So what do you think?
Yes, on behalf of ELAP, we would agree to any, we will make our calendars available for any rescheduled date. That won't be an issue. It is though true, next week, the week of the 18th. So we have ELAP staff, including our 3 witnesses, who are in Cincinnati for a required training. Mm-hmm. And so if it is going to be, if it's either the 20th as scheduled or the week of the 18th, what I would request is whether we could start at 2 p.m. That way they will be done with their all-day training. They're on East Coast time. And therefore, if we start at 2 p.m., then everybody's schedules are accommodated, including on Wednesday, the 20th. And then thereafter, the week of the 25th will be available whenever the schedule permits. So,
okay. So I think that makes sense. And Mr. Shepherd, what would your thoughts be if we started a hearing at 2 o'clock in the afternoon? Is that convenient for, is that going to work for you and for your client?
Generally speaking, I think we can work at 2 o'clock. I'm not sure how long the evidence will take. The preliminary schedule that you've put out frankly suggests that might not be enough time. I don't know how late the parties would want to go. I don't know if there's a desire to continue it on to a second day from there. There's a lot of value, obviously, in having it heard collectively, but the 25th being available between, the 20th and 25th, that to me is a very reasonably short period of time. Can you bear with me one second? Just let me look at my calendar. And I apologize, and I can reach out during this call. I'm not in a position to make the commitment yet. But the 25th, I think, would work on my end if we wanted to move it. And we just need to figure out whether we would do that. And if that accommodated the witnesses and actually gave counsel and I a little more time to have some productive discussions, I think that would be something I would be in favor of, but I need to clear that with my client.
Of course, of course. I think, so if I also am in favor of that proposal, because I think if we start on Wednesday, I and some in my staff may have hard deadlines at, 4:30, 5 o'clock, for childcare obligations. So we would have to stop anyway, and then resume with a second day of hearings. And the earliest that would be March 25th. So my preference would be to start at 9 a.m. on March 25th, and to go as long as we need to go with the hearing. With the timelines that I've laid out, it could potentially be 2-3 hours, maybe more. I want to, give the parties time to present rebuttal evidence and testimony, and I haven't listed how much time that would take. And depending on how many exhibits there are, it may take a while to work through some of those exhibits and any evidentiary objections or questions about them. So I want to make sure we're not rushed, and also that we are able to, hear the whole matter in a single morning, single day. So I think Ms. Mooney, any questions, comments?
Yes, and this is a priority matter for ELAP as well as for ELN, and so we will be available as necessary. And the one thing too, and maybe if we're starting at 9 a.m. on Wednesday, the one thing that, and we can see how the hearing is proceeding, but possibly some of the witnesses, if we can just excuse them. So they testify, they're available for cross, rebuttal, we're done with you, witness, and you can go back to your training, might be something that they might request if they can be, if it is acceptable for them to leave the hearing after there is an agreement that their testimony is concluded.
Okay, so you mentioned the testimony on Wednesday, so not starting at 2 o'clock. So you're saying, or do you mean Monday?
Yeah, if we are keeping it at
Mm-hmm.
Wednesday at 9 a.m. because that decision is made, and we're not going to accommodate starting at 2 p.m. So if we're starting Wednesday at 9 a.m., the one ask I would have is if at some point in the hearing, the witnesses could be excused, but everybody is completely done with asking them questions, and they will be available as needed. But they do have this commitment. So that's just the one thing I would ask, if that would be all right, if they could be excused from the hearing once they are done with their part.
I think so. And I guess the only thing that I'm thinking about, or for you to consider, would be if any of those witnesses are also testifying as rebuttal witnesses, then they would need to, if they were available, then we could say, okay, we could start rebuttal at 1 p.m. or something like that. And so then I guess that would be 4 p.m. in Cincinnati, and maybe that would be an easier time for them to get away. So we could, yes, I think that is fine. So Mr. Shepard, would you, my preference, preference to either start Wednesday and just have the appointed times, or to give you guys a little more time to chat. We can start the following Monday, the 25th. So Mr. Shepard, I'd like, if you could please check with your client and see, because the statute does say that the laboratory owner can request a different hearing date. So if she would like to request March 25th as the new hearing date, we would start at 9 a.m. I would issue a new notice of hearing. And you can kind of gauge that with Ms. Mooney to see how your settlement discussions are going. And then if not, it sounds like she's ready to go. Again, this is a priority for all of us to get this done. So then we could start on Wednesday, March 20th as noticed, and excuse the witnesses when they are completely done. And then we would make a plan if you, Ms. Mooney, has, decides that any needs to come back to serve as rebuttal witnesses, but, they could be available or not, then they could be completely excused from the hearing and they can continue on with their training. So that's my proposal, Mr. Shepard.
Yeah, so the one thing I didn't hear from Ms. Mooney was whether the 25th was actually acceptable to her, and I don't want to, is that work as well?
The 25th is acceptable to us.
So I'd be happy to jump offline for a moment, reach my client and see whether she prefers the 20th or 25th. If you'd like me to do that now.
Sure, we can all, that's fine. We can all wait, and we can just, go on mute, and we can turn our cameras off. And then why don't we just take a very quick recess and then just reconvene I don't know, 11:55, that's 8 minutes to chat with her. If you, Mr. Shepherd, if you are, I don't know if you're able to be on camera, but if I see you come back on camera earlier, we'll just, resume our discussions. But otherwise, let's just take a very short recess until 11:55, and we can hopefully finalize this today, and then I can send out a new notice of hearing or not, and we'll just proceed as noticed.
Okay, great. Thank
Okay,
you.
great. Thank you. See y'all in a bit.
I've returned.
Great. Hello. I saw you pop up on camera.
I did a flash. I didn't actually dress for the hearing, so I
Oh.
kept myself off camera.
Yes, I completely understand. That's the funny part about the Zoom hearings. Okay, any updates from your client, Mr. Shepherd?
Yeah, I do, and I'll just, she very much wants to have this done sooner. I think the move to the 25th is probably beneficial on a lot of fronts for us. But, and so it's been left up to me. And she wants to have this done as soon as possible because she wants to get up and running. And I understand that. And trying to figure out what's the best way to get to the ultimate goal here is kind of a challenge. Ideally, this is going to be like the middle ground answer. Ms. Mooney and I have had some conversations, and if it made sense for progress on other fronts to move it, then I would prefer the 25th so that we could focus on those things. But I don't want to delay unnecessarily either. So that's a kind of non-answer. It's about as equivocal as you could get. We're prepared to go on the 20th. I think if we're making progress on other fronts, the 25th makes more sense. But if we don't make progress there, the sooner we just get this done, the happier everyone will be and go about their lives. But then I think about the witness convenience. I frankly think the 25th is better, but I'm going to leave it at that for now. See if
Okay,
that invites any comments or thoughts.
yeah, Ms. Mooney, any last thoughts? And then I can tell you what I'm thinking. Ms. Mooney. Oh, I think you're still on mute.
I think it would assist the proceedings here to go on the 25th and give just those couple extra days and a little bit more bandwidth of staff and council to deal with it. But it is ELN's decision, and I hope we can work something out.
Okay, thank you for that. Since it sounds, Mr. Shepherd, it sounds like your client is kind of letting you decide. The AHO's preference would be to hold the hearing on March 25th. So I will issue a new notice of hearing. If anything, and I will adjust the deadlines for submitting evidence. If you plan to submit any cross-examination exhibits, please just identify those. We don't want to, most of your exhibits probably will be related to the testimony for your particular witnesses, but I think if there's any additional other exhibits, go ahead and label those so we don't move those over so that, the other party can see them earlier. So that's kind of the only thing that a note from my staff just wanted, if you've got cross-examination exhibits, note those and we will like move them over earlier, I think, or at a separate date. So that's I think our plan. I will issue a new notice of hearing, new deadlines. Everything else in the March 8th hearing notice will be the same. Mr. Shepherd, you went off mute. Any last comments before we adjourn today?
No, that's it. I did have a question though.
Sure.
Relative to submission of evidence, is the intent for the hearing to be all live testimony, or do you take, written testimony as well? If we put things in a declaration, consider that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, the way that, and you can review the hearing notice, which you probably have, but there is some information you can provide. You don't have to, but you may provide written testimony in advance, and the hearing officer, me, will consider that in addition to any live testimony. The live testimony does not need to repeat everything that's in that declaration or that written testimony. It can just summarize it because I will have read everything ahead of time. So that's the benefit to submitting any exhibits ahead of time, is that the hearing officer can review and be prepared with any questions, and everyone's kind of on the same page that way. So good question.
Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no additional questions, it is almost noon. We stayed within our time frame. Thank you all very much. So I will see all of you on March 25th, 2024 at 9 a.m. Unless there's settlement or anything else, please email our office and make sure you copy the service list so we don't have any ex-parte communications. And we are adjourned. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.